Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for...
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy's Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. I hope you're having a great day. Happy Friday. I know I am. I am juiced up, pumped up, ready to go for today's show. Trevor Lawrence inked a huge extension last night with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Indiana Fever playing a little defense? Since when does that happen? Well, it happened last night. We're going to get into that. I've got my favorite Funless Friday yet. I'm super pumped up to get into that. Aaliyah Boston played well. Just a lot of stuff going on. Game 4 of the NBA Finals tonight. I don't really want to talk about it, but I know that eventually I'm going to have to. But let's start with the biggest news in the AFC South outside of Anthony Richardson saying that, playing in the NFL is actually easier than playing in college, which is kind of wild. But anyway, so Trevor Lawrence last night inks an absolutely huge extension. He's going to make $55 million a year. It's a $275 million extension. That $55 million a year ties him with Joe Burrow as being the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And opinions on this, pretty mixed. I'm going to just straight up, Trevor Lawrence deserves every penny that he is getting in this deal. Every single penny. Because he's been good. Has he been great? No. But he's been a good, solid option at quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay, I think it's fair to say that Trevor Lawrence was billed as a generational quarterback. Like, this dude was supposed to be an absolute superstar, and he hasn't delivered on that. Okay, Trevor Lawrence isn't some big over the top superstar. He hasn't turned into the guy that everybody thought he was going to be. Even though I would argue that criticism, because that's the only criticism that you can really give Trevor Lawrence, that criticism says more about our expectations than Trevor Lawrence's failures. Any criticism more than Trevor Lawrence hasn't turned into the quarterback we all thought that he would is simply, it's poppycock. He's an excellent player. He is. I say this all the time, and I feel like sports radio is just discussing expectations in different ways. The guys deliver on expectations. What are fair expectations? So on and so forth. And for Trevor Lawrence, he has not delivered on the expectations that we had for him. But at the same time, the expectations we had for Trevor Lawrence were huge. He was supposed to be the next big thing. He was supposed to be the next great NFL quarterback. He was supposed to be who Patrick Mahomes is. Okay, Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be the next big time, everybody's buying his jersey kind of quarterback. And that's just not who he's been. And when you look at the record and the numbers, they don't jump off the page, but I don't think that the record and the numbers tell you everything that you need to know about Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence might just be 20-30 as a starter, but he's carried a pretty paltry Jaguars offense. Okay, like that team hasn't been very good on either side of the ball outside of Trevor Lawrence. And I don't think that the stats necessarily lay out how good of a quarterback Trevor Lawrence is, because he's really good. Okay, over the course of his career, he's thrown for 11,770 passing yards, 58 touchdowns to 39 interceptions over the course of 50 career games. He also has ran for 964 yards and 11 more touchdowns on the ground. So he's a true dual threat guy. I think he's the kind of dual threat quarterback every NFL team kind of wants for their quarterback to be, right? He's not Anthony Richardson or Lamar Jackson, where he can just kind of take off on a moment's notice, but he's more than capable of scrambling for a first down when your team needs it. The roster around Lawrence hasn't been great, and that's why they're 20-30. It is over the 50 games that Lawrence has been their starting quarterback. In the 1 year that the Jags had a halfway decent roster, they made the playoffs. They didn't only make the playoffs, they won a playoff game. Trevor Lawrence had the worst first half I think I've ever seen a quarterback have, and Twitter was going crazy talking about how he's overrated and how he's not built for these moments because we just love to overreact in the world of sports. And then he comes back out in the second half, completely outplays Justin Herbert, and they go on to win the game in one of the best comebacks I've ever seen. Okay, the thing about Trevor Lawrence and why I have no issue in the Jags forking out all this money, forking out, $55 million a year for him, the reason why I have no issue with it is because the talent is clearly there. When you look at, just the size, the athleticism, the arm strength, the accuracy, all those things Trevor Lawrence has. He does. He makes insane throws all the time. Okay, he's not like Tua, right? Where you question whether or not he's even good enough to play in the NFL, right? Because like when we look at Tua, who's supposed to be next up and is supposed to also ink a huge extension this year, like there are questions like is he even good enough to play in the NFL? Does he have the arm strength to do this long term? He's small, but he's not really mobile. Do we really want that, as the quarterback of our team's future? Like we know that he's put up numbers, but he didn't put up numbers until Mike McDaniel showed up. It's like, how good is Tua? None of those questions surround Trevor Lawrence. Like everybody knows that Trevor Lawrence is more than capable of being a great quarterback in the NFL. He just has to clean some things up. And I believe that improving the roster around him will make things better for him. Okay, people and teams have no issue whatsoever in playing quarterbacks like Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins. And look, Trevor Lawrence is every bit as good as those two guys. Two players that people have absolutely no issue paying once again. They just, no issue with it at all whatsoever. The difference is Dak Prescott was a 4th-round pick, and Kirk Cousins, I don't remember what round he was drafted in, but it wasn't the first round. It wasn't number 1 overall. So the expectations for those guys were lower. And so our perception of them is better than our perception of Trevor Lawrence. But I'm telling you right now, Trevor Lawrence is every bit as good as Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins. And he's younger than both of them. Okay, the issues that the Jaguars have had and why they haven't had the success that we have expected them to have under Trevor Lawrence haven't been because of Trevor Lawrence. Okay, he's been good. He's been accurate. He was 8th in on-target throws last year, which is an accuracy stat to see how often is he throwing the ball accurately to his receivers. That's accurate. Lawrence was sacked 35 times last year, which is a lot. And he had the 4th lowest pocket time in the NFL last year at 2.2 seconds. Now, what does that mean? Pocket time tracks how long a quarterback holds the ball in the pocket. Okay, so the clock starts when the ball is snapped. Then when the quarterback throws the ball or escapes the pocket, the clock stops. So what does this stat tell us? What does this 2.2 pocket time average tell us for Trevor Lawrence? It tells us that if Lawrence didn't get rid of the ball quickly last year, he was running for his life. Snap, get rid of the ball in like 2 seconds or less. And if that doesn't happen, then you were on the move running away from pressure. The Jags don't have a great offensive line. Calvin Ridley was supposed to be their best receiver last year. And let's be honest, look, I wanted Calvin Ridley to come here and play for the Colts, but he wasn't great last year. He was fine. Okay, he wasn't a dominant number 1 wide receiver. And look, this is a trend we've seen in the NFL over the past couple of years. When you give young quarterbacks great receivers, they tend to play better. Jalen Hurts with A.J. Brown. Tua with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. It helps. And the Jags just have not done a good job of building a proper roster around Trevor Lawrence. And now, by giving him this extension, that becomes more difficult because you have less money to play with, right? Like, the best time to win a Super Bowl is when your quarterback is on a rookie contract. Because, once you're paying him $55 million a year, like the Jags are doing with Trevor Lawrence, like the Bengals are doing with Joe Burrow and the Chiefs are doing with Patrick Mahomes, like when all that happens, it just becomes harder because you just don't have as much money to go pay good players at other non-quarterback positions. So Trevor Lawrence deserves every penny of this $55 million a year deal that ties him with Joe Burrow as being the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. So he didn't reset the market. He just joined Joe Burrow at the top of the market. So congrats to him. Once again, he deserves every penny of it. Okay, just because he hasn't met the expectations that were set before him, before his career even started, doesn't mean that he's not a good quarterback and doesn't mean that he doesn't deserve this amount of money. Moving on. Big news in college basketball yesterday / the NBA draft. Terrance Shannon Jr., guard for Illinois, went through a lot of stuff this last year, right? Was kicked off the Illinois basketball team, sued the school, back on the team, suspended for 6 games, all because of these false rape charges. He was cleared. The entire jury voted not guilty. That's unanimous. I'm glad for him. He was a really good player. It was hard to root for him with those allegations kind of sitting over his head. But I think you can't deny how great of a player Terrance Shannon Jr. was at Illinois last year. And look, I want to root for people. Like, it's nice to know that this talented kid at Illinois didn't ruin his life in his early 20s. And yeah, I'm glad for the guy because, we've seen people's lives be ruined over stuff like this. So I'm glad he didn't do it. And, hopefully he has a good, solid NBA career. He's probably going to be a first-round pick going somewhere between, he'll probably go after pick number 20, probably somewhere around there. In addition to that, U.S. Open is going on. Patrick Cantley, I don't think he's teed off quite yet today. He sits atop the leaderboard at 5 under, which is that's pretty good. He was tied with Rory McIlroy, who's had just a brutal day today so far. He teed off earlier this morning. Last time I saw, he was 2 over on the day. But he'll figure it out. Our boy, woo, that's loud. We don't want that playing. Yeah, he's 2 over on the day. So, tough break there, but we'll see if he can bounce back. With, once again, Patrick Cantley in the lead. I believe that he tees off today at around 1:30. So we'll be tuned into that during Dan's show. I am sure of it. Last night, in addition to the Trevor Lawrence extension, the Indiana Fever picked up a win, which we love to see. We want for the Indiana Fever to win games, and a large part of why they won that game is because Aaliyah Boston finally played a good game. No, she didn't play good last night. She was great last night. Tied a career high in points with 27 on 12 of 21 shooting. She had 13 rebounds to go with it. Was good at the rim defensively. Like, she looked awesome last night. And look, I didn't watch very many Fever games last year, so I'm not going to sit here and wax poetic about how much better Aaliyah Boston has gotten or anything like that. But I would say that what we saw last night from Aaliyah was much more of what I was expecting this year. Everyone was excited for Caitlin Clark, and rightfully so. But Aaliyah Boston was the Fever's best player last year as a rookie, made the All-Star team, won Rookie of the Year, and I expected her to be the Fever's best player this year, and she finally was. She was the Fever's best player last night, and it was awesome. It was awesome to see. It was great. The Fever are going to be at their best this year when Aaliyah Boston is the primary option. And, the Fever slowed down the pace last night. They took the ball out of Caitlin Clark's hands a little bit more, and they gave it to Aaliyah Boston. And when she scores the ball, she just takes so much pressure off of Caitlin Clark, who was awful last night, only scored 7 points, had 6 assists, and had 7 turnovers on top of everything else. Once again, Caitlin Clark got to figure out a way to stop turning the basketball over. But look, she's just, and those turnovers are why Caitlin Clark cannot be the best player on the Fever right now. Like, she needs to have the ball less, right? Like, it needs to be a heavier dose of Aaliyah Boston, which we got last night. And it needs to be a heavier dose of Kelsey Mitchell, who was awesome last night. 24 points on 7 of 14 shooting. Like, Caitlin Clark is clearly still trying to find her way in the WNBA. Okay, she's worn down. She's coming off a long college season, didn't get much of a break. Like, she just needs to have the ball less right now, and that's okay. Like, most rookies in any sport don't come in and immediately have success. So She needs to have the ball less. Need more Boston. Need more Mitchell. They need to lead the way. They did last night, and they won because of it. I mean, once again, they were great. Aaliyah Boston, 27 points and 13 rebounds, tying a career high in points. And then Kelsey Mitchell scoring 24 on 7 of 14 shooting is impressive as well. Coming up here in about 4 minutes, Funless Friday. I cannot wait. This is, dare I say, my favorite Funless Friday so far. I think you're really going to enjoy it. That's coming up here in about 4 minutes.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-670-5151. That's 1-800-670-5151. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. 1-800-670-5151. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
You can win gas for a full year. Visit Febreze.com to learn more.
Say less.
You may not win, but you're gonna have a fresh smelling whip.
Thanks, DJ Fresh. Now how about some music?
Hey, yo, this next one goes out to new Febreze car for giving you a chance to win free gas.
La 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 la.
No purchase necessary. Must be 18 to enter N73124 for rules and how to enter. Visit Febreze.com.
You're going to feel a puff of air.
Jong's Optometry has set their sights on staffing up.
Try the next line. Hey, Kim, can you tell our 2 o'clock we're running 15 behind? Sorry, we're a bit backed up today.
He needs an optometric technician to keep an eye on it all.
Where are the dilation drops?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. I hope you're having a great day. Hope my show is part of you just having a great time today. And it's Friday. So we all know what that means. It means it's time for Fun List Friday. And this is one of my favorite segments to do. It's fun. It's in the name. It's Fun List Friday. So the list has to be fun. And as we all know, Father's Day. It's 2 days away. Happy Father's Day to my dad. I talked to him this morning. Just had a great time. He's calling me about the Mavs, and we were both doing all of that kind of that kind of talk. And so last night I sat down to prep for Fun List Friday, and I do this every year, the Friday before Father's Day. I do Fun List Friday, Who's Your Daddy edition in honor of Father's Day. Now, for me growing up, this was very common trash talk. Okay. It's like, like if you consistently beat your buddy in whatever it is that you're competing at, you're their daddy. So you beat them and you look at them in their face and you say, who's your daddy? And, they get upset and pissed. But at the same time, it's like, I beat you. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just listen to one of my favorite clips from Remember the Titans.
Once you get on that bus, you ain't got no mama no more. You got your brothers on the team, and you got your daddy. Now, you know who your daddy is, don't you? Gary, if you want to play on this football team, you answer me when I ask you, who is your daddy? Who's your daddy, Gary? Who's your daddy? You. Uh-huh. And whose team is this? Is this your team, or is this your daddy's team? Yours. Mm-hmm.
It's one of the best clips from Remember the Titans. I love it so much, and it very much encapsulates what this list is. So without further ado, let's get into the list. First off, Michael Jordan is indeed Patrick Ewing's daddy. In 70 career matchups in the NBA, Michael Jordan went 49-21, including 19-8 in the playoffs. It didn't really matter what Patrick Ewing didn't matter who his teammates were. When they played Michael Jordan, chances were they were going to win because Michael Jordan just simply owned Patrick Ewing throughout their entire careers. And Michael Jordan became Patrick Ewing's daddy in 1982 when Michael Jordan hit the game winner to beat Patrick Ewing in the national title game. Okay, Michael Jordan owned Patrick Ewing at every stage of their careers, and I don't think there's really a better example of Michael Jordan just dominating Patrick Ewing than what happened in the 1991 NBA playoffs.
Michael double teamed on the drive, in for the left, gets chased into the corner, comes right back. Down! Through the foul! Yes! Wow!
Oh, powerhouse, JD. There's a poster play, folks. Oh, Patrick, he went back, forth. He got pressured by Vandeweghe on the side. Mark Jackson comes up to get some pressure on him. He comes down in the lane. He goes back against Oakley to get a little power. Here he comes. Patrick steps out. Up he goes. Yes! Oh, my, oh, my.
Second.
Michael Jordan dunking all over Patrick Ewing in 1991 perfectly encapsulates why Michael Jordan is indeed Patrick Ewing's daddy. Next on the list, Zach Edey was the daddy of any collegiate center these past 2 years. I mean, Zach Edey just absolutely dominated whoever was put in front of him. He averaged 22 points and 13 rebounds a game his junior year, and then 25 and 12 this last year, his senior year. He just utterly dominated anyone that didn't play for Fairleigh Dickinson. But guess what? They didn't have a center, so that doesn't really matter here. Okay? I mean, just these last 2 years, Zach Edey's just utterly dominated whoever he has played against, including Donovan Clingan, who's going to be a top 5 pick this year, it appears, which, if that doesn't tell you how weak this year's draft class is, I don't know what is. In the national title game, Zach Edey took Donovan Clingan, sat him down in a high chair, and just spoon-fed him 37 points and 10 rebounds And 2 of those 37 points came on a poster.
Smith upstairs. Jumbo jam. Zach Edey.
I love Ian Eagle. He just the best. Anyway, that was the call from when Zach Edey just dunked all over Donovan Clingan in the national championship game. And I just think that perfectly symbolizes how dominant he has been over these past 2 years. Now, Colts fans, you aren't going to like this one, but that's okay. Tom Brady is Peyton Manning's daddy. Tom Brady was 11-6 against Peyton Manning in head-to-head games over their careers. The career accolades aren't close. 7 Super Bowls to Peyton Manning's 2. Just more career passing yards, more career passing touchdowns. And part of that is obviously because Tom Brady played so much longer. But Manning was the number 1 overall pick that was supposed to own the NFL for a long time. And then Tom Brady, 6th-round selection. I don't think I have to give you that whole story. I think everyone knows it at this point. Shows up and really was the daddy of the entire NFL. He appeared in the Super Bowl 48% of the seasons in which he played. And he won 7 of them and earned several other accolades throughout his, career in Foxborough. But Peyton Manning was his main rivalry, and Tom Brady owned every part of it. And this drive in the 2004 divisional round of the playoffs from Tom Brady shows that.
Brady has the first. Brady, open man in the flat. Patrick pass. First down to the 24. 3rd and goal. They've had it for over 9.5 minutes in this quarter. From the 5, Brady with time. Now on the run. Throws. Touchdown. Touchdown, Patriots. David Gibbons.
That was just one of the many games in which Tom Brady beat Peyton Manning. That's the theme of their career. Tom Brady almost beat Peyton Manning twice as many times as he lost to him in those head-to-head matchups. And I get that it's football, and that's not an entirely fair comparison because, it's a whole team thing. But still, quarterbacks have the single most impact on a game, and Tom Brady consistently outperformed Peyton Manning throughout the years, and that is why he is Peyton Manning's daddy. Patrick Mahomes is Josh Allen's daddy. For their careers, Mahomes and Allen are 3-3 against each other. So it's like, Jonathan, they're 500. Yes, but Patrick Mahomes is undefeated against Josh Allen when it matters most in the playoffs. He just always seems to find a way to make plays when it matters most. Patrick Mahomes does. That's the most frustrating part about playing against him. And that's, in some ways, the worst part about being a Colts fan, because you know that no matter how good Anthony Richardson is, he's going to have to outplay Patrick Mahomes to beat him at some point if the Colts want to win a Super Bowl, right? And Josh Allen he's yet to do that. Mahomes is just capable of making those couple extra plays that Josh Allen can't seem to make in these playoff games. And because of that, Patrick Mahomes is a 3-time Super Bowl champion, and Josh Allen hasn't even appeared in a Super Bowl. And I think we all remember the divisional round in 2021 when Mahomes gets the ball in overtime after an incredible drive at the end of regulation to tie it up. Chiefs win the coin toss. Mahomes goes the length of the field and finds Travis Kelce in the back of the end zone to advance to the AFC Championship game.
Looking to the end zone for the win. He caught it. Ball game. Chiefs to the championship game.
I feel like I hear that call every year. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is yet to not at least make the AFC Championship game as the starter of the Kansas City Chiefs. And along the way, he's had to beat Josh Allen several times. And he's just to a point where he is Josh Allen's daddy. Anthony Richardson is also apparently the NFL's daddy already, since it's easier than playing in college, which I think is a great sign for Colts fans. Maybe if he can continue to find a way, to make things easier in the NFL than what it was in college, then we'll see how that goes. So that should excite Colts fans, I think. Moving on, the NCAA March Madness Selection Committee is the daddy of at-large mid-major bid hopefuls. Hey, Indiana State is the latest example of the March Madness Selection Committee. Okay, reminding the college basketball world that it owns any and every selection. So if you're a mid-major team, you better win your conference. You better win your conference tournament, because if you don't, they're not going to put you in. Okay, like March Madness Selection Committee's made it clear that they own the selection of all these bids, and because of that, if you better be a Power 5 conference team, or else they're going to leave you out. The latest snubs for the NCAA March Madness Committee includes obviously Indiana State this year, but even going back, Dayton in 2022 and they went 24-11. Furman in 2019, they went 25-7 and they missed the tournament, which is absurd. And in 2021, 18-6, Colorado State. I thought that they should have gotten in, but hey, who knows? Next here on the list, the White Sox are kind of like a foster child. They get a new daddy every few days, and it's always the opposing pitcher. I mean, they are just putting together one of the worst seasons ever. I mean, they're absolutely atrocious. They are hitting .217 this year. Of course, Martin Maldonado hitting 75. 0.75. It's utterly terrible. Make sure you vote him into the All-Star game. That's something that these White Sox fans are trying to do, which I just think is absolutely hilarious. But once again, White Sox only hitting .217 as a team this year. If that continues, right, if they continue to hover around .217, then they'd be tied for the 17th worst team batting average all time, which is insane, giving the long, lengthy history of Major League Baseball, right? I think that the lowest team ever, they hit like 170. That's way back in like 1884. So being the 17th worst hitting team of all time is absolutely terrible. Like, just imagine being the worst team in baseball in a year where the Oakland A's are doing everything that they can to suck. They're literally pulling a major league. We're going to be bad on purpose so that people don't show up, so that we can move to Las Vegas, because that is what is about to happen. Nolan Ryan is Robin Ventura's daddy after giving him the beating of his life about 55 feet away from home plate. And the crazy part about this is Nolan Ryan was old enough to be Robin Ventura's dad when this happened. Nolan Ryan, ripe age of 46. This is one of the best moments in the history of Major League Baseball. I love this moment so much. Okay, Nolan Ryan plucks Ventura, and Ventura charges the mound. You're like, oh no, it's a 26-year-old. He should crush this old man. And Nolan Ryan proceeds to put Ventura in a headlock and wail on him until the cavalry arrived to pull Nolan Ryan away from Ventura. And then, it's the whole team scuffle where no one's really hitting anybody. Everybody's just kind of pushing each other around. So Nolan Ryan owns Robin Ventura. Finally, Bill Russell was Wilt Chamberlain's daddy. Bill Russell had a 57-37 career record against Wilt Chamberlain. That's just total domination. He was 29-20 against Chamberlain in the playoffs. He averaged 29 points and 24 rebounds a game when he played against Wilt Chamberlain. That is absurd to average, dang near 30-20 against one of the best players ever in Wilt Chamberlain. He also beat Wilt Chamberlain in the finals twice on top of everything else. Bill Russell, one of the best basketball players, absolutely giving it to Wilt Chamberlain, another one of the best basketball players ever. Got more coming up here in 4 minutes, a little bit more Fever talk. We're going to keep on going through just everything going on in this great sports world when we come back here in about 4 minutes. What's going on? The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Just wrapped up Funless Friday. Just an absolute great time. Love doing that segment. It's one of my favorite ones that I do every single week. Caitlin Clark, once again, stealing headlines because, everybody just wants to talk about Caitlin Clark. And I just, oh my gosh, people, they're driving me crazy. I just want this to be about basketball. Like why can't we just sit around and be like, who's great at basketball? Caitlin Clark, and then just enjoy that. Seriously. I mean, I'm on Twitter between every segment, looking to see if any news breaks, looking to see if there's, a guy at the US Open who breaks a club over his knee because they're playing an extremely difficult course. And I got to be honest, I enjoy watching these pro golfers look like me on like a normal Sunday afternoon, where I can't hit the ball straight and I'm putting the ball back off the green and I'm chipping over the green. And it's nice to watch. It makes me feel better about myself. Okay. And so I'm on Twitter and I'm looking for these different things. And I come across this clip. Okay. And there was someone who asked Caitlin Clark last night about how people have used her name to, talk about like race and misogyny and all of these different things. And Caitlin Clark, once again, takes a tough question, a question that's not fun, a question that's not about basketball, and she gives a great response. Caitlin Clark's response to the question about people, weaponizing her name to a certain extent, her response was, quote, "It's not something I can control, so I don't put too much thought and time into thinking about things like that. And to be honest, I don't see a lot of it," which is great for her, right? Like if I was her, I would just delete all of the social media platforms. Like because like, look, like she clearly just wants to play basketball. All this extra nonsense, she clearly has no desire to be a part of. And then Dejanay, I believe that's how you pronounce her first name, Dejanay Carrington, goes on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, and addresses these comments from Caitlin Clark and says, quote, "Dog, how can one not be bothered by their name being used to justify racism, bigotry, misogyny, xenophobia, homophobia, and the intersectionalities of all of them is nuts. We all have a platform. Silence is a luxury." Look, these WNBA players, man, like they just don't get it. They don't. It is not Caitlin Clark's job to speak out on these things. And to be quite frank, people don't want her to. People just want her to play basketball. Okay? Like that's why people were excited for her to go into the WNBA. It was like, oh, we get to see this awesome player play at the highest level. Okay? It is not her fault that she's a focal point of what's going on. Like it's not. And it's not her job to denounce anything. If she wants to chill and just play basketball, she is allowed to do that. So I don't understand this world we live in where we expect for athletes to speak out on things because they don't have to. It's not their job. It's not. Their job is to play basketball and score points and make open three-point shots and play defense and do all those things. And the Fever did those things last night. And it was really fun to watch. And, I've got this whole thing typed out on how I really feel like the Fever took a positive step last night in the right direction. It seems like Christy Sides finally broke through and got to them and got them to commit defensively and do the important things that it takes to win basketball games. I got this whole thing written out. And I've got to take, 7 minutes or 5 minutes or however long that was to talk about something that has nothing to do with basketball because these WNBA women don't seem to get it. They don't. Now, I'm going to talk about basketball because that's what I'm here to do. Fever last night, big win against the Atlanta Dream. They score 91 points. They win 91-84. Just an impressive showing. It was fun to watch. They played great. No other way to really put it. Aaliyah Boston finally shows up. 27 points on 12 of 21 shooting. She had 13 rebounds to go with it. last night was the first night she looked good. Okay? Like, last night was the first time she met the expectations that I had for her coming into this season. To be fair, I did not watch any Fever games last year. Didn't watch one of them. I didn't feel like it deserved my time. But now everybody's talking about Clark and the WNBA. So now it does deserve my time because I know it's a topic that I'm going to discuss. So I'm watching last night, and for the first time, Aaliyah Boston met the expectations that I had. Okay? Everyone was excited for Caitlin Clark this year for obvious reasons, and rightfully so, because, she's the number 1 overall pick for a reason. She's, the best women's college basketball player that we've ever seen, right? She's definitely the most polarizing player that we have ever seen when it comes to, women's basketball. And, this continues to be seen every single day. And, that's great. There's a lot of pressure that comes with that. And so because of that, it is imperative for Aaliyah Boston to step up and to play well. She is needed. Aaliyah Boston was the Fever's best player as a rookie last year, won Rookie of the Year, led the WNBA in field goal percentage, was an all-star. And Aaliyah Boston is needed, and I expected her to be the Fever's best player this year. And she was last night, and that is in large part why they won. She got the ball on the block. She finished around the rim. It was fun to watch. She's clearly a skilled player. And, we saw it really on full display for the first time last night, and I appreciate the fact that she pulled down 13 rebounds as well. Not just doing it in one area, we're doing it in multiple, which is what I want to see from my stars. Okay, the Fever are going to be at their best this year when Aaliyah Boston is the best player on their team, when Aaliyah Boston is the primary option. And last night, I thought the Fever slowed the pace of the game down a little bit. That way they could get her involved more offensively, which is great because when she scores the ball, she takes so much pressure off of Caitlin Clark, who was awful last night. 7 points, 6 assists, but 7 turnovers. Got to cut those down. Okay, like the turnovers and the inconsistent shooting is a large part of why Caitlin Clark can't be the best player for the Fever. Right now, on some nights, she can be. Like nights where she's really got it going, yeah, like give her the ball. But when she clearly doesn't, let's take the ball out of her hands. Let's make her life a little bit easier because she's still adjusting to the WNBA, a physical league with better defenders, right? Like that's why we're seeing this inconsistency. As great as she is, like every rookie has to have time to adjust. Okay, the Fever need to feature more Aaliyah Boston and more Kelsey Mitchell, who had 24 points last night on 7 of 14 shooting. Caitlin clearly still trying to figure out where she fits in. She's worn down as well, coming off of a long college season. She needs to have the ball less. More Aaliyah Boston and more Kelsey Mitchell is the way forward for the Indiana Fever. They did that last night, and that's why they won. The Fever also won because of their defense. It was awesome because that was the one thing that I think everybody that's been watching the Fever wanted to see. Can they defend well enough to win some of these games? And they did last night. The Fever had a big lead. They squandered it. The Atlanta Dream come flying back. And then in the final 3 minutes and 11 seconds, the Indiana Fever only allowed 2 points. That's incredible. We haven't seen them defend like that all year. Okay, they squandered this big lead, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, geez, this young team, they're probably going to fold, and I'm going to have to go on the air tomorrow and talk about how disappointing this is. And no, I don't have to do that because they focused in, they responded well, and when they needed stops, they found a way to get it done. It was impressive. And they responded in a tremendous way after a lackluster defensive performance against the Connecticut Sun. Right? This is the progress that we want to see. Okay, the Fever are now 2-1 in this important 9-game stretch. They're playing the Chicago Sky on Sunday or Saturday. I don't remember which. At noon. I'm going to be at that game. I can't wait. I'm super excited. Let me actually double check that because I committed to some things, and I just want to make sure that I'm actually am going to be at that game. The 16th, yeah, so Sunday. Sunday at noon. They're playing the Sky. I think we all remember what happened the last time the Sky came into town, and I can't wait to watch the game, because, Angel Reese is going to be there. the chick that hip checked Caitlin Clark is also going to be there. I am so excited to be present for that game. I'm going to boo Angel Reese. Telling you that right now. Can't wait. Should be an electric environment because I think the city of Indianapolis really appreciates Caitlin Clark. They've sold out every game that they've played. It's been pretty awesome. So I will be at that game on Sunday. Shout out to Ryan who gave me the tickets. In other news outside of Caitlin Clark, the U.S. Open, it's going on right now. It's so great. I love seeing these professional golfers struggle in every way, shape, and form. Patrick Cantley currently sitting in the lead at 5 under after an awesome round yesterday. Rory McIlroy was tied with him also at 5 under, but he's going through it today. Last time I checked, he was 2 over on the day. As of right now, he is where's he at here? He's still 2 over on the day through 11 holes. So yeah, I'm sure he'll figure it out at some point, but it's such a tough course. Pinehurst, number 2, man. I love it. I love watching these guys do what I do on a regular basis whenever I play golf. I do. So there's that. Dallas, game 4 tonight, playing the Celtics at home. We're going to learn a bit about this Dallas Mavericks team tonight. Do they have pride? Are they going to bounce back in a strong manner? Or are they just going to roll over? And I'm really nervous that it's going to be the latter. I fully expect them to roll over. Luka just didn't come off as the toughest guy in the world in game 3, right? With all the whining and the complaining, fouling out, going to the podium after the game, complaining about it some more. And, at some point, you got to quit complaining and you have to just play basketball. Game 3 was really physical, clearly. And, that's just the way that playoff basketball goes sometimes. And you can't waste your time complaining. Like, there were multiple plays where Luka would flop, they wouldn't call it, and he'd get upset. And then they'd give up a layup, right? And then Luka would attack the rim and he'd get fouled and they wouldn't call it. And then he'd foul somebody out of frustration. And that just, it speaks volumes to the type of guy that Luka is. And that's a little soft. I think he's really competitive because I don't think that non-competitive guys would complain as much as Luka does. But look, I think that complaining is fine. I don't have an issue when superstars complain about fouls and things of that nature because every superstar does it. Every superstar complains about fouls. The issue with Luka is that he allows those fouls to get in the way of him playing well. And look, I've got some issues with the way that people have talked about him over the past 24 hours. They've just had an absolute field day, but this is what happens when you play in the NBA Finals. If you don't win, people absolutely crucify you. And look, I'll just say it. There's a lot of people, even people in the media, who don't watch NBA regular season basketball. Like, this is who Luka is. This is what he does. This is what he's done all year. He's done it through the playoffs, and there was no issue with it whatsoever when they were winning games. And here's the other thing. Defensively, people have really come at him. Let me just set the record straight on this. There isn't a basketball player in the world. There's not a basketball player in the world that can guard Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. There's not one. And Boston is doing a fantastic job offensively of getting Luka switched onto one of those two guys. And some of it bothers me. My 2 biggest basketball pet peeves. We see it happen in college and in the NBA. I hate the bad chuck it up 2-for-1 shot where this is just an excuse for me to take a pull-up 3. I hate that shot. It frustrates me to no end. Like, let's just get a good look, please. Okay? I think it's actually scoring here is worth more than us shooting a bad shot, potentially giving up a shot, and then being forced into a bad shot with 8 seconds left on the game clock. It upsets me to no end. The other thing that upsets me, and Dallas has been doing it the entire series, is the easy switch. And what I mean by that is when a hard screen is not set, when there's a soft screen teams switching anyway. Just being like, oh, there's a little bit of resistance here, so let me not fight over the screen. Or, hey, we're 40 feet away from the basket. Let's switch instead of the defender guarding the ball going under the screen. Dallas does that time and time again, and because of that, they have put Luka in bad spots. Okay? And look, if you want to go at Luka for the whining and the complaining and for the lack of resiliency that he showed in game 3 and his inability to respond to not getting calls, have at it. But don't go at him for his defense. Okay, don't say that he's the reason why they lost game 3, because the only reason why they were in game 3 was because of Luka. The only reason why they're in the NBA Finals is because of Luka. The only reason why they beat the Clippers in the first round and the number 1 seeded Oklahoma City Thunder in the second round, and the reason why they beat the up-and-coming people falling in love with Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals in 5 games is because of Luka Doncic. Okay, so if you want to complain about him and the fact that he gripes and whines too much, have at it. But that's the only thing about his game that you can complain about. He's still the second best basketball player in the world behind Jokic. He's the only one. He's still the best player in this series. Okay? He's got to work on his temper. He has to do a better job of responding well when things do not go his way. And I don't think that's going to happen tonight because people don't change in 48 hours. It doesn't happen, And so they're going to need a great game from Luka and Kyrie, and they're going to need for the Boston Celtics to not shoot the ball well. So that's going to do it for hour number 1 of the Real Jonathan Smith Show. Coming back here with hour number 2. Trevor Lawrence signed a big extension yesterday. Coming back with that here in about 4 minutes. What's going on? The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. I hope you're having just the best day. I know I am. I love doing the show. I love Fridays. Dan on remote today as well. It means I got the studio all to myself, and it's the best. I can go pee when I want. I don't have to wait for him to get done before I use the restroom. It's great. I love it, and I love doing this show. Hour number 2 of the Real Jonathan Smith Show coming at you right now. Trevor Lawrence, quarterback in the AFC South of the Jacksonville Jaguars, inked a huge extension last night. $275 million over the course of 5 years. $200 million of that is guaranteed, with $142 million of it coming at signing. Trevor Lawrence, the stances on him are really interesting because I don't think anybody's like, this guy sucks. But I do think everybody believes that he hasn't met expectations. With that being said, Trevor Lawrence deserves every penny of this deal. Okay? And that $275 million over 5 years averages out to about $55 million in a year. That contract matches Joe Burrow as the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Jeez, that's a lot of money, man. That's an insane amount of money. And once again, Trevor Lawrence deserves every penny of it. I think that it is fair to say that Trevor Lawrence was sold to us as a generational quarterback, the guy that was going to be the superstar. Like all the Super Bowls that Patrick Mahomes has won, I think everybody kind of expected for Trevor Lawrence to be the guy to win those. And he hasn't delivered on that expectation. Okay, now, I think that if your criticism says anything more about him than that, then I think you're wrong. And I think that specific criticism of him has less to do with how he has played and more with the expectations that we had on him coming into this season. Okay, any more criticism than he hasn't met the expectations that we had for him is absurd. He is an excellent player. Okay, and I talk about expectations all the time because they matter. That's why when Anthony Richardson went on the podcast of Jeff Teague and was like, yeah, the NFL is actually easier than college football. It's like, don't say that because now the expectation for you has raised. Undersell, overperform. He should have been like, this is the hardest thing ever. This is really difficult. That way everybody would have been like, oh, he's not going to play very well. And then boom, he comes out. He has an above average season. We're all like, oh, this guy's great. No, expectations are important. And this right here on Trevor Lawrence is why. He's underachieved. And because of that, we have underrated him. We have. Because everyone expected for Trevor Lawrence to be the next big thing, to be the next great generational, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning kind of guy. Because he has not been that, he has therefore been underrated. Okay, Trevor Lawrence might be just 20 and 30 as a starter, but this roster for Jacksonville is just not very good. It's terrible. It's awful. And they had a chance to bring back a good receiver in Calvin Ridley, and they're like, nah, let him go play for the Titans. Why not? The Jags have not done a good job of building a good team around Trevor Lawrence, and that is why they're 20 and 30. It's not because of Trevor Lawrence. And I don't think that the stats for Trevor Lawrence I don't think they really bear it out either. He's thrown 11,770 passing yards over the course of 50 games. He's thrown 58 touchdowns to 39 interceptions. It's not bad. It's not great. It's pretty average. In addition to that, he has run for 964 career rushing yards and 11 touchdowns on the ground. He's the perfect scrambler in terms of he's not fast enough where he's like, I need to run all the time, but he is fast enough where he can get out of the pocket and grab a first down. So perfect in that regard. The talent is clearly there. The issue is the roster around him hasn't been great. The 1 year that the Jacksonville Jaguars had a halfway decent roster, they had an incredible comeback to beat the Chargers and to advance. Remember, Lawrence throws 4 interceptions in the first half. Everyone's like, oh, geez, what a choke job. They're down, by a lot. And then they come out in the second half and they come back and they beat the Chargers. And games like that and just different clips that you see of Trevor Lawrence, it's obvious that the talent to be an NFL quarterback is there. Like, it's clear. Like, he has the arm strength. He has the mobility. He has the accuracy. Like, all of the physical tools he has. Like, he makes insane throws all the time. Okay? Like, there's another quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa where everyone's like, I wouldn't extend him. Because there are legit questions about the actual talent that he has. Okay? Like, people are like legitimately questioning, is Tua even good enough to be a starter in the NFL? Is he just a product of Mike McDaniel? Because when he was playing under Brian Flores in a little bit more difficult offense, he wasn't very good. He was bad, as a matter of fact. He was. Meanwhile, Trevor Lawrence has kind of figured things out post Urban Meyer. Like, like, it's very clear that Trevor Lawrence is good enough to have a good career in the NFL. And the part that I really get hung up on is people have no issue paying players like Dak Prescott. Like, the discourse around Dak this year of like, oh, if the Cowboys don't extend him, he's going to hit the open market and people are going to pay him a lot of money. Like, that's kind of the discourse around him. And people seem to have no issue with that. People seem to have no issue with the Atlanta Falcons going out and forking out a lot of money for Kirk Cousins. But Trevor Lawrence, because the expectations were so high, there's been some pushback on this $55 million a year deal over the course of 5 years. Like, there's been some pushback on it. And my thing is, like, I think Trevor Lawrence is every bit as good as Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins. And he's younger than both of them. The difference is Dak Prescott was a 4th-round pick. Kirk Cousins, I believe, was a 3rd or 4th-round pick. And neither one of them were selected number 1 overall like Trevor Lawrence. Okay, expectations are important. Remove if you didn't think that Trevor Lawrence was going to be a superstar generational talent at the quarterback position, everyone would have no issue with the Jaguars giving him this kind of money due to his age and due to the flashes that he has shown from a talent perspective. Okay, and when you dive deep and you look at the advanced stats of Trevor Lawrence, it's undeniable that this guy's a good quarterback. He was 8th in on-target throws last year, which is an accuracy stat that is exactly what I said. It rates how many of your throws were on target. How many times did you hit your receiver in the chest? How many times did you throw a catchable football? He was 8th in that. That's good. That's great, dare I say. That's in the top quarter of the league. The Jaguars receivers had several drops last year. That's why the numbers weren't better. The offensive line also hasn't protected him very well at all. Trevor Lawrence was sacked 35 times last year. 35. And he had the 4th lowest pocket time in the NFL last year at 2.2. That is a stat that tracks how long the quarterback holds the ball in the pocket. So, Trevor Lawrence claps his hands, snaps the football. As soon as the ball is snapped, the clock starts. And the clock runs until the quarterback either throws the ball or escapes the pocket. That means that if Trevor Lawrence didn't get rid of the ball quickly last year, he was running for his life. The offensive line in Jacksonville has not done a good job of protecting him. He was either snap and get rid of it or snap and, oh crap, let me run away from this defensive end. That's what his life looked like last year. Could Trevor Lawrence be better? Yes, of course he could. But he is clearly talented enough to lead an NFL team. The Jags just have to do a better job of putting a better roster around him. Like, his best receiver this year is going to be a rookie that they took with like the 23rd overall pick in Brian Thomas Jr. Like, it's hard to win that way with a young quarterback if you don't have a legitimate number 1 option at wide receiver. Okay, like, we have seen quarterbacks in the NFL take leaps because their general manager and their front office went out and got them a legitimate good number 1 wide receiver. That happened to Tua in Miami when Tyreek Hill showed up. That happened to Josh Allen in Buffalo when Stephon Diggs showed up. That happened to Jalen Hurts with Philadelphia when A.J. Brown showed up. It helps to have great weapons on the outside. That's part of why people here in Indianapolis have been clamoring for Chris Ballard to go out and get a legitimate wide receiver, because everybody knows, there's evidence of it, that great wide receivers help young quarterbacks. The Jaguars have to do a better job of putting talent around Trevor Lawrence. That becomes way more difficult now because, $55 million a year of your salary cap is going to Trevor Lawrence. So now you've really got to work between the margins, and you really have to draft well and do all of the little things in order to make this happen, in order for the Jags to have any chance of winning the division, especially since when you look across the division, if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, Anthony Richardson is on a rookie contract. CJ Stroud is on a rookie contract. Will Levis is on a rookie contract. Because of that, the Colts, Titans, and Texans have extra money to throw at other positions that the Jags no longer have because of this extension that they just gave Trevor Lawrence, that he is once again 1,000% worth every single penny of. Congrats to Trevor Lawrence. He undoubtedly deserves every penny that he got. Caitlin Clark is once again at the forefront of the media for something that doesn't have to do with basketball. And I just, she's incredible, not even just as a basketball player, but just as someone that deals with the media. Okay, like I couldn't imagine being 22. I've matured a lot in the last, almost 3 years of my life. If I was 22 years old and put in front of a camera and asked this many tough questions that don't have to do with basketball, I would absolutely fold under the pressure, and most 22-year-olds would. But not Caitlin Clark. If I was her, I think that I would just kind of reach this point to where I'd be like, I'm not answering questions unless it is basketball related, because this is ridiculous. I did a whole thing on how polarizing she is a couple weeks ago, and look, it's not her fault that it's not her fault that it's this way. It's the media's fault because they use her as an example to talk about things that don't have to do with basketball, right? And those things get a reaction out of people. So Caitlin Clark was asked about this, asked about her name being used in non-sports talks, and here's what she had to say. Quote, "It's not something I can control, so I don't put too much thought and time into thinking about things like that. And to be honest, I don't see a lot of it," which is great for her, right? If your name is being thrown out there and used for things that you don't want any part of, I would probably stay off of social media as well. That's not her fault. But of course, the WNBA players, the rest of them, take major issue with everything that Caitlin Clark does. So Dejanay Carrington had to go to Twitter and say, quote, "Dog, how can one not be bothered by their name being used to justify racism, bigotry, misogyny, xenophobia, homophobia, and the intersectionalities of them all is nuts. We all have a platform. Silence is a luxury." It is a luxury, and it's a luxury that Caitlin Clark wants to take advantage of. Okay, it is no one's job. It's certainly not Caitlin Clark's job to step out and speak out against this stuff. Like, that's not her job. Her job is to play basketball. Her job is to hit open jump shots and to finish at the rim. If she wants to speak out about those things, then by all means, go right on ahead, because Carrington is right. Like, everybody does have a platform. And what the cool thing about having a platform is you can talk about and do whatever you want to do with it. But this whole idea of every athlete has to, step out and speak out on things that, let's be honest, they probably shouldn't speak out on. I feel like every time an athlete speaks out on something that doesn't have to do with their sport, I'm like, geez, this person doesn't know what they're talking about. So in all honesty, part of why Caitlin Clark is so popular is because she hasn't spoken out against these things. Seriously. Saw another thing about the WNBA that I want to hit on. They are set to lose $50 million this year. Despite all of this attention, despite going out and splurging that money on those private flights, they are still going to lose $50 million this year. Because people aren't watching the rest of the league enough. Because I think it's pretty clear that Caitlin Clark has captured everybody's attention. I think it's pretty clear that people are tuning in and watching all of those games. I'd be like, I'm going on Sunday. I can't wait. They're playing the Chicago Sky. Can't wait to boo Angel Reese. I'm going to have an absolute blast. My wife's going to be like, "Jonathan, what has gotten into you? Why are you booing this poor woman?" I'm going to be like, "Because I don't like her. Simple as that." And, look, noon, Sunday, people are like, it is appointment television. The issue is the WNBA doesn't have enough appointment television. The only person that people really care to watch is Caitlin Clark. Okay, the WNBA has to figure out some sort of way to incorporate these other women, because there are other good players in the WNBA outside of Caitlin Clark. The WNBA has to figure out some sort of way to get them involved in everything going on with Caitlin Clark. I don't know how to do that. I don't get paid enough to figure out how to do that, but that is clearly the next step for the WNBA if they would like to quit being propped up by the NBA, because currently they are. Coming up in 4 minutes, Funless Friday, coming right back at you. One of my favorite segments of the week. I love doing this bit. The topic today is great. It's in honor of Father's Day. Can't wait to do it. That is coming at you here in about 4 minutes. going on? The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in today. No matter how you're tuning in, whether that's, you're listening live on the radio, 1430 a.m., maybe you're watching on Twitter. If you want to watch there, follow us at Ticket 1430, or maybe you're watching on YouTube. If you're not, that's where you should watch. Head over, search for Indy's Sports Ticket. We should pop up. Join the live feed. Join the chat. It's a great time. It's great vibes. What is not great vibes and not a great time is playing Pinehurst. Pinehurst number 2. Scrolling through Twitter during the break. Nice little club flip. Nice little putter toss from Scotty Scheffler. The calmest, coolest, best golfer in the world. Pinehurst has officially gotten to him. Okay, he hits a beautiful putt, sinks a little left, and he misses it, and you see the flip. It's great. I just retweeted it. If you want to go check it out, follow me at __ Jonathan Smith. I do not envy those guys having to play that course this weekend. It looks absolutely terrible. It looks awful. It looks like I would have no fun whatsoever. When I play golf, I at least want to feel like I had some fun. So, yeah, Pinehurst number 2, man. Absolutely brutal. Something that's not brutal, though, is Fun List Friday. I love this segment. It's my favorites. Today's Fun List Friday is inspired by Father's Day coming up on Sunday. So that's right. Don't forget Father's Day coming up. I bought my Father's Day. For Father's Day, I already bought my dad a gift. My dad loves Chips Ahoy cookies. My dad never asks for anything, doesn't really need anything. So my wife and I sent him a huge box with 50 packs of Chips Ahoy cookies in it. I think he's going to like it. My mom's going to be like, Jonathan, we did not need all this. I'm like, you didn't need it, but my dad did. So happy Father's Day to my dad. Fun List Friday brought to you by Father's Day. This is Fun List Friday. Who's your daddy edition?
Once you get on that bus, you ain't got no mama no more. You got your brothers on the team, and you got your daddy. Now, you know who your daddy is, don't you? Gary, if you want to play on this football team, you answer me when I ask you, who is your daddy? Who's your daddy, Gary? Who's your daddy? You. Uh-huh. And whose team is this? Is this your team, or is this your daddy's team? Yours. Mm-hmm.
Fun List Friday, Who's Your Daddy edition. Basically, the idea of this bit is to talk about players that owned other players throughout their careers. They were their daddy. They just consistently beat them for whatever reason. The inferior player just couldn't get over the hump against this specific player. And when I was thinking about doing this, the first thing that came to mind is Michael Jordan over Patrick Ewing. Michael Jordan is Patrick Ewing's daddy, 1,000%. In 70 career matchups in the NBA, Michael Jordan went 49-21 against Patrick Ewing-led teams, including 19-8 in the playoffs. Michael Jordan averaged 32 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds a game against Ewing for his career. And of course, this all began. Michael Jordan became Patrick Ewing's daddy in 1982 when Michael Jordan hit the game winner to beat Patrick Ewing in the national title game. Right? When that happened, we were like, oh, this could be the start of a great rivalry, even though it wasn't a rivalry because it was extremely one-sided. And it was all capped off 1991, game 1 of the NBA playoffs. Knicks, Bulls, and Michael Jordan did this.
Michael double teamed on the drive, in from the left, gets chased into the corner, comes right back. Through the foul.
Wow! Oh, powerhouse, JD. There's a poster play, folks. Oh, Patrick, he went back sport. He got pressured by Vandeweghe on the side. Mark Jackson comes up to get some pressure on him. He comes down in the lane. He goes back against Oakley to get a little power. Here he comes. Patrick steps out. Up he goes. Yes! Oh my.
Second.
That was Michael Jordan dunking all over Patrick Ewing in 1991, solidifying his status as Patrick Ewing's daddy. Next, Zach Edey was the daddy. He absolutely dominated any collegiate center these past 2 years. I mean, just utterly dominant, owned Everybody that he played against averaged 22 points and 13 rebounds a night his junior year. And then last year, senior year, 25 points and 12 rebounds a night. He utterly dominated anyone not named Fairleigh Dickinson. Sorry, these jokes, just too easy. I'm short. I got to grab the low-hanging fruit. It's just the way that it goes. Who didn't play center these last 2 years. So does Fairleigh Dickinson really count? I don't know. Donovan Clingan, though, did play center, a guy who's going to be a top 5 pick this year, it appears, which really speaks to the lack of depth in this year's draft class. Zach Edey against Donovan Clingan. Grabbed Donovan Clingan, put him in a high chair, and spoon-fed him 37 points on 60% shooting from the field. Zach Edey dominated every big man that has been put in front of him for these last 2 years. Didn't matter if you doubled him, he still found a way to score. Zach Edey, the daddy of every collegiate big man these last 2 years. Tom Brady, Colts fans, you're not going to like this one. Tom Brady is without a doubt Peyton Manning's daddy. Tom Brady was 11-6 in head-to-head games against Peyton Manning throughout their career. The career accolades aren't close. Brady, 7 Super Bowls. Peyton Manning, only 2, the one here in Indianapolis. And obviously when it comes to career stats, Brady played so much longer. He owns all of those. But, Peyton Manning was the next big thing, the number 1 overall pick that was supposed to own the NFL for a long time. Then Drew Bledsoe gets hurt. Tom Brady shows up and was really the daddy of the entire NFL, winning 7 Super Bowls. He appeared in the Super Bowl in 48% of the seasons that he played, which is absurd. He earned several other accolades, but Peyton Manning was his main rival. And look, Peyton and Tom Brady just owned that rivalry. Here is Tom Brady doing what he did best against Peyton Manning and the Colts, putting together great drives that score touchdowns.
Brady has the first. Brady, open man in the flat. Patrick pass. First down to the 24. 3rd and goal. They've had it for over 9.5 minutes in this quarter. From the 5, Brady with time. Now on the run. Throws. Touchdown. Touchdown, Patriots. David Gibbons.
Just another addition there. That was from the 2004 divisional matchup between Manning and Brady. Brady just moving his team down the field, doing what he did seamlessly every time he played against the Colts and Peyton Manning. He scored touchdowns, and he figured out a way to win 11 out of the 17 games that they played. John Buzzard, great point. He thinks that Ballard's daddy is every other GM in the NFL. I'm not going to push back on that statement. Staying in the world of football, Patrick Mahomes is Josh Allen's daddy. For their careers, Mahomes and Allen are 3-3 against each other, so it's been pretty even, except Patrick Mahomes is 2-0 in the playoffs against Josh Allen. He just always seems to find a way to win when it matters most. He just always seems to make a couple extra plays that Josh Allen can't make. And because of that, Mahomes is a 3-time Super Bowl champ, and Josh Allen hasn't even appeared in a Super Bowl yet. Now, will he get there one day? I don't know. Probably, but when we think Allen and Mahomes, I don't know how we don't think about 2021 divisional round. The game goes to overtime. It's why, they have the new rule in the playoffs where if your opponent scores a touchdown, the other team still gets a chance to score. Yeah, Mahomes absolutely owns Josh Allen, and it all started with this play.
Looking to the end zone for the win. He caught it. Ball game. Chiefs to the championship game.
Jeez, I love Jim Nantz. He does such a good job. So that is right. Josh Allen is the daddy of, Patrick Mahomes is the daddy of Josh Allen. Josh Allen is the son of Patrick Mahomes because he just, at every turn, it doesn't matter, every big moment, Patrick Mahomes finds a way to beat Josh Allen. The White Sox are next on the list. This year's White Sox team, they're kind of like a foster child. They get a new daddy like every few days, and it's always the opposing pitcher. Okay, they are hitting .217 as a team this year. If that's what they continue to hit, they would be tied for the 17th worst team batting average of all time. It doesn't matter who pitches to them. I could go out there and probably get some outs. Okay? And I haven't thrown a baseball in years. Okay, it doesn't matter. They are not going to hit well. They are atrocious. They're like, they're like a double-A team trying to play Major League Baseball. It's just not going very well. Like, could you imagine being the worst team in baseball while the Oakland A's are in the middle of pulling a major league where they're trying to be bad on purpose so that people don't show up so that they can then move the location of their team from Oakland, California to Las Vegas? Okay? Like the A's are doing everything that they can to absolutely suck. And it doesn't matter because the White Sox are like, you guys think you're bad. Watch what we do. And I love the way the White Sox fans are pushing back against this. Martin Maldonado, the White Sox catcher, is hitting 76.076 on the season. And White Sox fans are like, we are voting you into the All-Star game, whether you like it or not, which I am just a huge fan of. I hope Martin Maldonado makes the All-Star game. I think it would be hilarious. I think it'd be great. And it'd be one of the best things about sports. Moving on, Nolan Ryan is Robert Ventura's daddy after giving him the beating of his life. That's right, the White Sox popping up on here twice. Nolan Ryan beating the absolute snot out of Robert Ventura about 55 feet away from home plate. Nolan Ryan, the ripe age of 46, drills Robert Ventura. And you know it hurt because Nolan Ryan still throws gas now. He hits 26-year-old Robin Ventura on the, like the tricep elbow area, which is not a fun place to get hit. Dare I say that is the worst place to get hit. Ventura gets hit, grabs the elbow, turns away, drops the bat, runs out to the mound to meet 46-year-old Nolan Ryan, a guy who was legitimately old enough to be Robin Ventura's daddy. And Nolan Ryan proceeds to put Ventura in a headlock and then wail on his face repeatedly until the cavalry arrived, and it then looked like a normal baseball brawl where everybody's just kind of pushing each other and no one's really throwing any blows. But, those 30 seconds until everybody else showed up were pretty great for Nolan Ryan. He beat the absolute snot out of Robin Ventura that day. And then finally, Bill Russell was Wilt Chamberlain's daddy. Bill Russell had a career 57-37 record against Chamberlain. He was 29-20 against Chamberlain in the playoffs. He averaged 29 points and 24 rebounds a game head-to-head against Wilt Chamberlain, which is absurd, right? Because when we think about that era and we talk about Wilt, we talk about the pure dominance, just how much more athletic he was than everybody and how great of a basketball player he was and how intense of a competitor he was. There's a story that I believe Kareem Abdul-Jabbar tells where he's hanging out with Wilt, and this short guy gets in the elevator, and the guy looks up at Wilt, and he goes, "Hey, Wilt, how's the weather out there?" And Wilt Chamberlain proceeds to spit on said shorter person and says, "It's raining," and then went on about his day. Yeah, that's the guy that Bill Russell absolutely owned throughout his career. Okay, beat Wilt Chamberlain in the finals twice on top of everything else that I just said. Bill Russell was indeed Wilt Chamberlain's daddy. Funless Friday. Who's Your Daddy edition. Love the bits. Coming up here in 4 minutes. I also love Indiana Fever W's. I also love 20-year-olds' lives not being ruined. Those are just two of my favorite things. I love watching professional golfers struggle the way I do when I play. Scotty Scheffler flipping the putter it's great. It makes me feel so much better about my golf game. Getting into all that when we come back here in about 4 minutes. What's going on? The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Tickets. And the clips from the U.S. Open are just the best. Rory McIlroy putting just, oh my gosh. You know, he's got like a 20-foot putt. The pace on the putt looks great. And then the ball just keeps on rolling, rolls past the pin, rolls off the green, back down onto the fairway. I mean, just incredible stuff here at Pinehurst. There's a part of me that's like, I really want to play this course. I think I could set the record for the absolute, for the worst score ever there. I truly think that I could while trying, obviously. Okay. Like it wouldn't like, I love it. It's so great. I love watching these professional golfers struggle. It makes me feel better. Hopefully it makes you feel better about your golf game as well. I do think that is the attraction to watching the U.S. Open. Indiana Fever continuing their season on Sunday at noon, taking on the Chicago Sky. Can't wait. I'm going to be at that one. Shout out to Ryan for hooking me up with some tickets. And I'm hoping that I see a lot of what the Fever showed last night. Aaliyah Boston tied a career high last night in points with 27. She was efficient, 12 of 21 from the floor. When she got the ball on the block, she went to work. I know there were some Pacers fans out there like, geez, I really wish that Miles Turner would do this when he got the ball. I know that there are, but that's just not who Miles Turner is, and that's okay. But in addition to those 27 points, tying a career high, she also had 13 rebounds to go with it. She looked good. Last night was the first night that she looked like the Aaliyah Boston that I think people expected her to be. Now, to be fair, I didn't watch many Fever games last year. They weren't interesting. They are now because of Caitlin Clark. But I think everyone was expecting for Aaliyah Boston to be dominant because she was dominant last year. When it came to the Fever and, the little its and bits that I heard about them, it was all about Aaliyah Boston, about how good of a rookie year she had. She led the league in field goal percentage. She won Rookie of the Year. She was an all-star. Okay? Like I think people expected her to be the Fever's best player this year. And she was that last night, and that's why they won. The Fever are going to be at their best this year when Aaliyah Boston is the primary option. When Aaliyah Boston scores the basketball, she takes just an incredible amount of pressure off of Caitlin Clark, who was awful, atrocious, terrible, worse than expired milk. Like she was horrendous. She scored 7 points, wasn't efficient in her shot making, had six assists, which is great, but she had 7 turnovers. Look, I'm cool with players missing shots. Players are going to miss shots. It happens all the time. But 7 turnovers can't happen. Like, if you're going to play point guard at the professional level, you can't turn the basketball over 7 times. You can't. And, once again, like, she has to cut down on the number of turnovers that she is committing. But this turnover issue and the lack of consistency in her scoring is why she can't be the best player for the Fever right now. She needs to have the ball less. Like, there needs to be more Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell having the basketball with opportunities to score. And we got more of that last night. And that's why the Fever won. Aaliyah Boston, once again, 27 points, 12-21 shooting, 13 rebounds. And Kelsey Mitchell had 24 points last night on 7-14 shooting. Like, look, Caitlin Clark needs to be the third best player on this team for them to have the most success. And that's okay. If the best player on your team is a rookie, that means you aren't very good. Okay? Aaliyah Boston was the number 1 overall pick 2 years ago. Kelsey Mitchell, the number 2 overall pick 3 years ago. Like, these girls can ball. And they need to have the basketball in their hands more. Right? Especially right now, because Caitlin Clark's coming off of a long college basketball season with no break. She is worn down. She needs a break. She needs to have the ball less. She needs some pressure relieved off of her. And last night that happened. Okay, the Fever, Christy Sides, as much as people have ripped her, I thought she did a good job last night. The Fever slowed the pace down, and they fed Aaliyah Boston a little bit more. They gave Kelsey Mitchell more opportunities to score in isolation, and they both capitalized on those things. Okay, they need to lead the way. And nights where Caitlin has things going, she should then have the basketball more. Okay, that's what they did last night, and they won in large part because of it. They also won because of the defense that they played last night. Fever had a big lead at halftime, had a big lead about halfway through the third quarter, and then the Fever go ice cold on offense. They really struggled offensively in the third and fourth quarters. And if it hadn't been for their defense, they would not have won. The Indiana Fever allowed 2 points in the final 3 minutes and 11 seconds of the game last night. They squandered a huge lead, and because of their defense, they were able to hold on and win the game. And it was a really impressive response after what happened after their last game against the Connecticut Sun, where Christy Sides went to the podium and was like, we have to play better defense. I can't coach effort. Okay, like I can push all the right buttons, but if the effort isn't there, then the Fever aren't going to win. That's what Christy Sides said. And look, she's right. Like, you have to have people that play hard. And the Fever had that last night. That's why they won. That's why they got stops late, because they rotated with intensity. They guarded the ball with intensity. Like, that is what has to happen in order for teams to win games, especially young teams. And it's hard to play with that level of effort and intensity throughout a game, but they did last night, and that is why they won. And that has to continue, because on Sunday, the Chicago Sky are coming to town. Angel Reese back in Gainbridge Fieldhouse. I cannot wait. Cannot wait for this game. The Fever are now 2-1 in this important 9-game stretch. And they're playing the Chicago Sky Sunday at noon. I'll be there. I can't wait. I'm going to boo the crap out of Angel Reese. I think Caitlin Clark's going to have a really big game. I think she's going to play at an incredibly high level, because we all know that, those girls, they don't like each other. Caitlin Clark has done a great job of taking the high road when it comes to opportunities to bash the other players. Like, we know she's not going to bash her. Angel Reese hasn't said anything super directly about Caitlin Clark, but it's evident that they don't like each other. And they're both going to play hard. I'm hoping Clark goes nuts, right? She definitely has the means to. We saw her do it a few nights ago against the Mystic, and I'm hoping we see it at home against the Chicago Sky on Sunday, because I can't stand Angel Reese. I can't stand that other little girl on their team that hip checked Clark the last time that they played. So game's going to be great. It's going to be physical. It's going to be intense, because those teams do not like each other. Now, something else that I don't like is false accusations. Okay. Terrance Shannon Jr. yesterday was cleared unanimously on all charges. There were some rape allegations against him, was kicked off of the Illinois team because of it. He then sued the school. The school put him back on the team. He was suspended for 6 games. He's going on the road. I don't care for Illinois all that much. They're fine, whatever. But they're on the road. Student sections are chanting at him, no means no. And he has to go through all of this crap. And he ends up being innocent, which I think is great. I am someone who wants to see people do well in life. And this is obviously something that can absolutely ruin your life before it really even gets started. So I'm glad that Terrance Shannon Jr.'s life wasn't ruined in his early 20s. I'm glad that he's going to have an opportunity to make an NBA roster. He's a guy who's probably going to get drafted somewhere, mid to late first round. And when I say mid, I mean like starting at around pick 20. Because, he had a great year at Illinois this last year. And, I want to see what he looks like in the league. He's an explosive scorer, dynamic, athletic, checks a lot of boxes of what NBA teams are looking for in a guard. And, he's someone who can undoubtedly elevate a team. So glad for him. And yeah. US Open also going on right now. The clips on Twitter of guys getting pissy when balls are rolling off the back of the green. And it's so great. It makes me feel so much better. Patrick Cantley and Rory McElroy both led the way coming into today. McElroy struggled early. He's back to 1 over, right? So he's 4 under total. That leads the way, along with Ludwig Aberg and DeChambeau, who was 3 under yesterday and is 1 under through 13 so far today. Love DeChambeau. I mean, he's just fun. He's fun. He's fun to watch, and that is what people want from their athletes. They want fun to watch guys. Trevor Lawrence, I think, checks that box because he makes so many incredible throws. $275 million extension coming his way. Because of that, $200 million of it guaranteed, $142 million at signing. That's absurd. Lawrence deserves every single penny. I will swear by it. Expectations are important. I talk about them all the time. I feel like so much of sports talk is just managing expectations, right? Did this player meet expectations? Oh, they didn't? Let's rip them. Oh, they did? Let's praise them, right? That's just kind of the way that it goes. And Trevor Lawrence hasn't met these expectations, and so people are very hesitant to say that, that he deserves this money, even though he clearly does. He does. Okay, he's just as good as guys like Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins, who people had no issue with the Cowboys and the Vikings and now the Falcons paying a whole lot of money, right? Like this isn't the same thing as Tua, right? Like there are legitimate questions around Tua's game of, is he even good enough to be a starter, or is he just benefiting from Mike McDaniels in this offense? And I would argue that it's the latter. He's clearly not worth $55 million a year like Trevor Lawrence is and like Joe Burrow is, the two highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. So like there's a clear gap between Trevor Lawrence and the questionable quarterbacks of the world. Like if Jared Goff is worth $53 million a year, then Trevor Lawrence is undoubtedly worth $55 million a year because he's a better quarterback than Jared Goff is. I know that the team's success hasn't been there. I understand that Trevor Lawrence over the course of 50 games has only gone 20 and 30 as a starter. I get that his numbers don't jump off the page, but that's not what it's all about. Like part of extending guys is the glimpses that they show, because I think everybody knows that the Jacksonville Jaguars have not done a great job of building a good roster around, Trevor Lawrence. They haven't. Like the defense hasn't been great. The offensive line hasn't been great. The best receiver that he's thrown to is Calvin Ridley, who's had a good but not great career. And then the Jags let him walk in the offseason. Like they haven't done a good job of building things around him. And I think the biggest thing that speaks to that are the number of drops that the Jaguars had last year. And on top of that, Trevor Lawrence had the 4th lowest pocket time in the NFL last year at 2.2 seconds. It's like, Jonathan, what does that mean? That stat tracks how long a quarterback holds the ball in the pocket. Okay, so the clock starts on the snap. When the quarterback throws the ball or escapes the pocket, the clock stops. That means that if Lawrence didn't get rid of the ball quickly last year, he was running for his life, right? Like those were his two options: snap it and get rid of it, and basically less than 2 seconds, or run away from some edge rusher. Now, could Trevor Lawrence be better? Yes, of course he could. But he's clearly talented enough to lead an NFL team. Okay, the Jaguars just have to do a better job of building a good roster around him. That's something that they haven't done while he has been there. So coming up, 5 minutes, the Dan Dockett Show. I hope you have a great weekend. Really quickly, Mavs, they're not winning tonight. They're getting swept. I've accepted it. So, yeah, I'm disappointed, but Boston's just better. It's a tough matchup. That's what the league's about, and Boston has done a great job of limiting the other guys and attacking Luka on offense. And that's what's going to win them the series. I don't think that this should be an indictment on who Luka is. He's still the second best player in the world. I will stand by that. So, Mavs, great run. They were clearly the best team in the West. Actually, I wouldn't say clearly. It's them or Denver. So, there you go. Mavs lose tonight. I hope not. I want more basketball, but this is the way it goes. And for the Pacers fans out there saying that they would beat the Mavs, there's absolutely no way. Absolutely no way. Okay, they would have no answer for Luka or Kyrie. None whatsoever. And that is why Boston has won this series, because defensively they have been so good on those guys. Like the Pacers would not have been good enough defensively to beat Dallas. And I know there's been a lot of talk about Luka's defense. I mean, look, the Mavs are still playing good defense. They're giving up, like 105 points a game. Like that is good enough to win. Like seriously, like only allowing 105 points a game is more than good enough to win. The Mavs just haven't had the offense. So that's just kind of the way that it goes. The Dan Dockett Show coming up in 5 minutes live from Back Nine Golf on the South Side. I can't wait to come back Monday. Talk Fever playing on Sunday. I can't wait. And once again, Luka Doncic is that guy. He's the second best player in the world. I love Dan, but I know that Dan hasn't watched that guy as much as I have. So I'm going to roll with my opinion over his. The Dan Dockett Show coming up here in 5 minutes. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope you guys have a great, great weekend. I will talk to you guys on Monday.